I'm running this in a two-part. The first part, we're going to talk about responsibility. And the second part, we're going to talk about a responsible future. Obviously, the world of AI is going really well. It's advancing fast. It's challenging us. Ideally, it's augmenting our capabilities. And we're reaching a point where intelligence alone is not enough. There is the matter of responsibility in that journey. And we've seen many ways where there are some industries, like if we think of the nuclear industry, that could have been a major breakthrough that would have advanced our lives everywhere. But because that responsibility piece of it, it actually slowed it down. So it's important to think of that and to think about what guardrails should organizations, institutions think of when they want to introduce AI or embrace AI. Before I go further, I'm just going to talk about certain dimensions of AI because it's very important to cover that. There is what we look at as conversational AI. This could be ChatGPT, chatbots. So really, it's more an AI that you can engage in dialogue, capture information, have it help you with stuff. There is the notion of informational AI, basically access to information that also could be Gen AI, it could be Google search, it could be all information you find on the web. And there is a notion of decisional AI. It's AI that you rely on to make big decisions. Autopilot could be decisional AI. MLY would be decisional AI because actually you're using insights from MLY to figure out what to do. And it's really important to think of that because when you think of decisional AI, you cannot have at the bottom a message that says MLY can make mistakes. Because if we put that statement at the bottom, then it's absolutely useless to you. It's actually borderline dangerous. There's a reason why in conversational AI, ChatGPT will say ChatGPT can make mistakes. Because it's okay to make mistakes when you're using it as a source of information or support, but not necessarily a decisional piece. So it brings the notion of trustworthy decision support. Okay, so basically, when AI is not used to automate actions, but influence or guide human decisions, the reliability, explainability, and contextual fidelity of its insights becomes paramount. I'm going to give you a real-life use case just to illustrate that. You all know IBM Watson. That was kind of the first AI platform that was built a while ago now. They partnered with hospitals, IBM basically, to offer Watson as a decision support tool for cancer treatment. It doesn't get more decisional AI than that. It recommended very unsafe and ineffective treatments because it was trained on synthetic or limited curated data lacking robust clinical grounding. Hospitals stopped using the system. IBM stepped back from AI healthcare. Public trust was damaged and no longer was used for decisional in that sector. So it's very important to think that when we get into decision support, we have to be very careful in terms of the quality of what we provide around that. So we're going to start talking about responsible AI, which we're coining as RAI, R-A-I. And we're going to look at 7 principles. I went to sleep with 11, I woke up with 7. The reason being is, you're going to see that a lot could consolidate actually into certain processes. So we're going to start with them. The first one that we need to think of is fairness and inclusion. And really what that means is that when we build AI models, we have to make sure that we're embedding in them a true representation of what we're going to analyze or what we're going to make or infer decisions upon. I'm going to take an example with Amazon. So back in 2014, Amazon developed an AI system to streamline its hiring process. So it will look through resumes and automatically pick the good resumes. The challenge with that is that it downgraded all the women colleges graduates, and it upgraded the male applicants. Not because they intended their model to do that, because when they build their models, they build it on a notion of what they already have, which was a dominantly male population within the organization. Needless to say, the project was shut down, ironically 4 years later. Just imagine 4 years of making wrong decisions, of denying access to Amazon because of a flawed decision support mechanism that they built in their model. Why was it flawed? Because as they built their model, the data that they used it to model it upon was not built on the notion of what they should expect in the real world. It was based on their reality at that point in time. So it brings a very big notion, and we have to be very careful because we talk a lot about ethical sourcing of data. But there's a big element here that we need to always think of, is have the models been developed taking into consideration every angle that's going to matter when I'm going to make decisions based on the outputs of that model. The second one is transparency and interpretability. This is important because when you get an analysis or an output that you want to make decisions on, it has to make sure that it's transparent enough to tell you where did that insight come from. And it has to be something that you can actually translate in the right way. So it should be understandable, not just in terms of what output is giving you, but also how did it come up with that analysis or that insight. So you want your models to be well documented. Nothing should be hidden. We shouldn't be worried about, hey, the competitors could see what we're giving as an output, so let's hide everything, and then you have a magic black box that just gives you an insight. And you're supposed to make big recruitment decisions, onboarding decisions, employer brand, institutional decisions, teaching effectiveness decisions, and so on, based on that. An example of that is Apple. So in 2019, there was a tech entrepreneur, David Heinemeier Hansen. He tweeted that his Apple card credit limit was 20 times higher than his wife's, despite her having a better credit score than him. So, and it was something that everybody was starting to sing. And these revelations led to public outcry and investigation by the New York State Department of Financial Services. They didn't find unlawful discrimination in it. They couldn't know anything because they wouldn't understand, and nobody today was able to figure out how did that happen within the model. And that's that transparency piece, being able to really understand as we advance our models if we're actually advancing them in the right way, and we're giving that visibility to everybody so that we're not caught off guard one day with a new release of your model where you say, what the hell happened? And a year later, again, you have some severe consequences on brand and on outputs. The third one is accountability and governance. So basically, the premise here is there should be ownerships in organizations. It shouldn't be one of those things, and we get a lot of that, by the way. I would say there's 5 to 10% of the organization that show a lot of interest in MLY. It's not because they need MLY. It's because somehow the CEO or the provost mandated the institution to go and buy everything AI. And as long as you check a box that says, yes, and we do Gen AI in it, then great, we just invested in AI. So the premise here really is introducing accountability and governance around it. Do we have people that are accountable and responsible for the evolution of the AI strategy within an organization as a vendor or as a consumer of it? Is there auditability? So whenever there's an issue about anything that we're going to cover or we've covered with responsible AI, we need to be able to track it, reach out to someone, and somebody's going to introduce strict governance within an organization to implement stuff. Recently Zoom introduced an AI assistant that will automatically analyze and write something in your thing. We activated it really fast at Explorance until we started thinking about, but it's not giving a message to customers when they join that Zoom, and suddenly we have a transcript coming out. Next thing is going to email the transcript to everybody. And that's when we say we introduce good governance and accountability. Yes, speed matters, but recklessly speed is actually worse than driving slow. The fourth one is accuracy and decision integrity. This is really important because when we're looking at, that's fine on the other one, but on the decision support, this really applies to decisional AI. Of course, you're not going to make decisions based on a platform that will tell you I can make mistakes, right? That's established, it's easy. But if you're Tesla and you're giving me in automatic driving capabilities, mistakes are not an option. So accuracy and decision integrity matters a lot. What does that mean? Insights must be precise, domain aware. That's the specialization. You cannot come and get a very wide scope platform built for A and apply it for B. It's not going to give you accurate insights. Decision integrity is also guidelines about the evolution of them as well. Every time we're going to introduce a new model, and we experience that often, is you want to make sure you're running very high quality standards to make sure, are we heading in the right direction? By introducing more into the model, did we just pollute the model? Did we advance it? Are there any blind spots? Did we affect anything around that responsible AI piece as well? 5, privacy and consent. Most of us obsess about this part because that's when AI was launched at mainstream. Everybody was wondering where the ChatGPT got all the data from. The notion of privacy and consent. Privacy, it means anything I'm going to put in my model, I want to make sure that it's not going to be exposed, it's going to be anonymized, it's not going to include any identifying information. But privacy also means that if an organization uses your data, it uses your tool, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're not contributing more data that's not consensual to the vendor or to the solution. So again, that's the second thing. When I use ChatGPT, it says I can make mistakes, but the second statement says, and all Explorance, I will not be using Explorance data for training my models. And the first natural reaction that comes to me, so what are you going to use it for, right? Maybe not for training your model, but maybe for understanding conversation, for increasing your intelligence. So that's the part of that's very important, is to ensure that there's a strict abidance to privacy and compliance. An example in that is obviously Cambridge Analytica, where in 2018, they had harvested data from millions of Facebook users without consent, using it for political advertising reasons. And they literally had a personality quiz app, and whoever took part of it and all their Facebook friend data was automatically pulled and added to that list. So that's a major breach of privacy and consent. And it actually ended up costing Facebook $5 billion in penalties. And shows you an idea also why it's so critical to do to focus on privacy and consent, which is, where did you source your data? Is it consensual data? What are you going to do with my usage data? Am I still going to own it, or going to use it for something else? Number 6, purpose and human intent. This one is very important in my books. First of all, when we build AI tools, we have to build AI tools for good. But also, it has to be used for good. Think of a nuclear. You know, nuclear is one of the major breakthroughs. It could have powered the planet. It could have done major impact on sustainability and environment and things like that. But it was also used as a weapon, right? So the premise behind that also, and when we look at responsible AI, is to actually ensure that we're doing that. And if we look in our field, imagine you're using an alert, and in the alert you realize that there's a student that is actually stressing out and about, can't keep up with the courses or about to quit. The ethical approach to this is to deal with the problem of saying, how do we handle students at risk? The unethical approach is, let's make sure we advise our lending department to make sure that we don't give them any more money because they're going to quit anyway, right? So this is that divide, that line of what are you going to use AI for, and how do we make sure that there's that stewardship in the process, not just what the vendor gives you as a platform, but what you actually do with it. There's a good example with YouTube. They had a recommendation algorithm that promotes radical content to maximize user engagement. And I see it, by the way, when my son sometimes watches YouTube. He's 8 years old now. I had to block it. If he likes Pokemons, they keep on increasing and showing things that move at a faster rate, that are a bit more engaging or aggressive in their approach. What the problem with that is that it was leveraged eventually to start spreading misinformation and extremist content on the platform as a side effect of that algorithm that was built for a certain purpose, which is not a great purpose to start with. I'm saying, how do I engage more people so they spend more time watching short videos? to something that suddenly, accidentally, kept on going more extreme until actually started changing facets of society in a certain way. Reliability and safety. This may not fit fully in the software world, but it does have certain ramifications. But in general, AI systems must operate safely, predictably, and securely, even in edge cases. And it covers a lot of examples. So for example, I could plug in the Boeing story, the Boeing 737 MAX, where there were 2 accidents that took place. About 346 people died because something was built to do autopiloting in a certain area that wasn't documented, wasn't advertised, and it wasn't built naturally or in an ergonomic enough way for pilots to be able to understand. To an extent where it took them probably 3-4 months to even understand why did these 2 planes crash. And then suddenly they have to stop it. Another example when we look at that is look at GPT-3. Every time they retrain the model and they do it on a consistent basis, it's the equivalent of 60 homes being powered for a whole year. Every single time, right? So this is all considerations that we need to think of when we look at the physical impact of AI. So these are reflexes that we think of when we commit to responsible AI as a vendor. And I'm going to tie this a little bit to MLY. So where does MLY kind of look at or apply these principles? And here I put a lot of text. Forgive me, like I said, it was 11, it moves to 7 this morning, so we had to figure it out. There was no design impact on this one. Fairness and inclusion. MLY is trained using supervised, expert verified annotation. So we follow a supervised learning approach. It's more hard work because we have 3 people that will be, or 2 people depending on the scenario, sitting between the data and the model evolution. And they're trained in the field, they are specialized in the field, and we ensure that nothing ever makes it to the model unless if all these people agree in a blind annotation process on that. Otherwise, there's a tiebreaker that takes place. It's a choice we made. It's the responsible choice. It made MLY development take longer. It took us 6 years to bring MLY from beginning to market launch back in 2023. The second one around transparency and interpretability. With MLY, you can go from the insight all the way to the comment. So you have your loopback. You can actually validate, is the output you're getting actually to your meeting your need? Is there an issue with it? And you even have a feedback loop embedded in it where you can go in and say, I don't agree with you, Explorance, about this. And it's going to come back to Explorance, and then Explorance can actually do something about it to evolve the models in the right way. Accuracy and decision integrity. Same concept. There's not one change that makes it to the model that doesn't go through people to make sure that we're actually evolving it. Then we look at the second one, accountability and governance. That's the premise of the approach that we follow from beginning in terms of everything that we talked about. But the main notion also is that the platform itself gives you the possibility to control who gets access to the insights. Who is responsible enough to be able to do the right thing with the insights? How do you educate internally to avoid issues that may come with that purpose and human intent component? So the sharing features, the approval features, the controls in terms of what gets analyzed, who gets access to it. Privacy and consent. All the data that's been put in MLY is consent-based. That's based on the models being built. The data that you're going to be using for it is yours and only yours and cannot be used for any purpose unless if you give us written permission to use it to evolve the model. So that kind of principle that we follow across the platforms at Explorance. Purpose and human intent. We do our best to make sure we don't, or we educate around it, and we educate our customers to ensure you don't use it for bad. Because today you can go to the extent where you can identify, if you want to even, a student to an insight. Our hope is that you're not going to go that far, because at the end there are guardrails that the customer should be able to implement to ensure that whatever you get out of it for decision support is leveraged for good. And finally, on the reliability and safety, the notion again is about continuous evolution, continuous testing, and ensuring that we're heading in the right direction. We're always looking back and saying, is the model evolving correctly? Do we have enough representative data from all angles, cultures, societies, the language, etc., to make sure that we're covering everything. So this is really an important foundation in the development of AI. Now we're going to shift and talk a little bit about MLY. I'm going to take us to the very beginning. What did organizations do with their open-ended feedback before MLY, let's say, or before BTA? The answer is nothing. In most cases, anything that was expressed with comments was at best seen by the people that were receiving the comments, where it brought in even a risk on their psychological safety, because that's where I could write some very harmful things. And it's never been looked up above. However, the more we looked at it, we said there are those 10 questions that we're going to ask you that are quantitative in nature. That's what I think you need, and that's what I've been asking everybody like you for the last 20 years. So it's outdated. And then there's this little comment box and saying, and now I'm going to allow you to express yourself here. And I'm going to do nothing about it. So MLY was built to address that, and specifically built around the notion of student experience, learner experience, employee experience. What we care about is to support a person from the day they start studying till the day they stop working. And we want to make sure that that voice they're expressing along that journey is actually heard and is driving general improvement. So the MLY 1 and 2 series, we're still talking in terms of series because we're close to Formula 1 here. But basically the main premise behind it is to say, can we be able with certainty to automatically read millions and millions of comments, bring you automatically the insights, bring you the automated recommendations and prescriptions, give you the associated sentiments, and identify any problematic statements that could affect the psychological safety of the reader of the comment, my psychological safety as a provider of the comment, or my well-being with potential detection of self-harm. So the whole premise behind it first is, can we look at the versions 1 and 2 of MLY to ensure that we actually now are starting to tap into that wealth of qualitative insights that are provided to us, that are a true measure of expression or expectations by our employees, our students, and our learners. Then MLY 3 came, which we're in the MLY 3 era right now, the series 3. So basically here, what we said, we're going to take it to the next level. Now we're going to elevate it from being purely a comment analysis platform to becoming a voice management platform. Let us use the best of breed things. And we focus on a lot of stuff. Can we start analyzing comments from any language, not just English? Why? Because we don't want to leave everybody behind. We're just talking about bias and fairness. You can't come and say, you know what, this person answered in Spanish, so their voice doesn't matter. It matters as much. So multilingual capabilities. And then we said, hey, there's a benefit from this. Because not only am I going to address the problem of fairness in it, but we're going to address the other problem, which is how do we make sure that the person reading the comments, so now we're going back to that transparency and transparency piece, can access the comment that originated in Insight, even if the comment was written in a language that the administrator didn't understand. So it kind of helps you on both sides. It makes you listen to more, and it makes you understand more. The second piece in it is, because we want this expression to be shared widely within an organization, we have to acknowledge the fact that not everybody is feedback literate, not everybody is insight literate, not everybody is going to know what to do if you give them insights about improvement. You know, not everybody is lucky like me to have a coach that could come and spend time with me and tell me, hey, this means this means that, when you deploy it to your 5,000 teachers or 5,000 managers in your organization. So then we said we can leverage generative AI to summarize quality insights that stem out of MLY. Would we send the comments directly to Gen AI? One, there's the risk of what's going to happen to our comments. Two, there's the risk of ChatGPT can make mistakes, which is very dangerous. But if all we do is take quality insights that come out of MLY, and we send these anonymized insights to ChatGPT or any Gen AI platform and say, now, just write it in good English that's easy for anybody to understand, that's going to simplify everything. It's going to make it more mainstream, more streamlined for everyone to be able to do something about it. So we're starting by addressing the notion of, we have a lot of insights, now we have insights from everyone. Then we said in the MLY 3 series, now we need to start focusing on implementing psychological safety. Because if you don't address psychological safety in your organization, if you don't make feedback a safe space for everyone, it's very unlikely that you're ever going to truly hear what everybody else to say is. As Mark was talking about, you need these people that are going to criticize. You need these people that feel safe enough that they can antagonize or say something you don't want to hear because it's the right thing for you to hear. So we implemented redaction capabilities in the MLY 3 series. Redaction capability basically is an ability in MLY to be able to come and say, we're going to make sure that the comments are safe. I don't know how many of you have done what I'm doing here, but I'm sure a few during this event. But in general, I always look very forward and I get very excited about the feedback on the session. I'm scared shitless to read the comments. Because when I get to the comment, I know there will be something that will be said that will hurt my feelings. And I've done enough of those that I shouldn't, but that's reality. So this is where we said, with MLY, the beauty is you can start by recommendation, which as CEO, I evolved to do that. Just tell me what to start doing, stop doing, continue doing, and I'm not going to bother. If something really triggers you and say, I really need to understand why you're telling me to stop doing this, then I can go to the insight. What insight drove that recommendation? And if it's really still itching, I'm going to go to the comment. But by then, I know the comment may be negative. The redaction feature could even help it further and say, you know what, I'm going to detect anything said that could include illegal language, reference to proper names, bad words, something based on harassment, bullying, etc. And it's going to automatically redact it for me. So I don't have to go through an exercise of taking something that was given to me so I can do better, and it becomes something that will actually further affect my well-being or psychological safety, and then the whole feedback exercise gets wasted. So the redaction feature is part of that commitment from Explorance, is to help organizations further instill safe spaces for people to be able to express themselves. And then we started moving forward on the analytics abilities, and you're going to see MLY 3.1 come soon. We're including more insights. We're starting to get the context added to the response. Sometimes a question could be, what can your manager do better? And I say nothing. Today, nothing means nothing. But if you take into consideration the question, this could mean something. It means that the management skills positive. There's something positive in that question. So this is where also 3.1 is going to bring some additional cool capabilities. Obviously, MLY has been integrated in Blue. It's already integrated in MTM. It will be integrated in BlueX. And if you're using any other survey platform, feel free to integrate it there as well. The goal behind it is that's going to be where you can have the richest amount of data or expression capabilities. Now we're moving to the future. And remember, unlike traditional software and AI, the future is very close usually. So whatever we put here, the MLY 4 series should trigger. We're probably going to start implementing capabilities in it. And I know in the machine AI research part, we've already been on it for years. But on the application development, we'll probably start as early as September to define the whole 4 series. And you're going to start seeing instances of release 4 coming as early as March of April of 2026. So we're going to cover first thing. First, there's a couple of new paradigms that we're going to bring to light with that. We want to advance the prescription. So today, the way MLY prescribes recommendations is based on the comments you're getting. The more your stakeholders, your students or employees are feedback literate, the better their comments are. Typically, a comment is descriptive, feedback is objective, feedback is prescriptive. So I'm actually sharing with you something that is objective. I'm sharing you enough details for you to do something about it, and I'm giving you suggestions for improvement. In an ideal world, that's all you need to be able to drive improvement. The reality is most people are feedback illiterate. So a lot of times you're going to get these kind of answers like nothing or none or I'm not sure or stuff like that. So what we're doing is we're building a whole prescriptive ability in MLY that's also curated. So the premise, if it's decisional and we're going to give you a recommendation, it's because it's a recommendation you can rely on. But we said there's the layer of, if you're telling me, if you're sharing improvement opportunities with me in your comment, great, I'm going to give it to you. If you're not, and I know what issue you're describing, I'm going to look in other comments that include such improvements, and I'm going to give you these recommendations as well. If there's none of these comments or issues that you're facing that are addressed in recommendation improvements in this current set of comments, I can look in any other comments you ever received as an organization. I can look in the collectiveness of all comments ever annotated within Explorance, or I can look in a curated repository of recommendations that's curated by Explorance or even your own as an organization. But the premise is, if I realize you have 3 things you need to address, we want to make sure that they are never going to come just as issues, but they're going to come as recommendations. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as we evolve in the MLY 3 race, the notion of now we understand the question context, and by adding the question context into the answer, we're able to give you rich insights. You know that we're one step away from being able to do that for quantitative questions as well now. So basically, if you answer a survey, I can take your answers to a Likert scale question or a multiple choice question or a comment question and merge them all in one response that's qualitative, analyze it in MLY, and give you unified insights. So the beauty of that now is you have 55,000 potential insights you can analyze on, and it linearizes analysis over time. Right now in analysis theory, I always have to remember what the question meant. And I'm going to carry that meaning throughout to say, for this question, you rated on average 4.2 over 5. If this concept disappears, now I'm only analyzing by insight. So I don't really care about what questions I asked, because MLY could combine the questions, the answers, and be able to give you unified insights with that. We're going to evolve to introduce personalized adaptive summaries. That's the summaries we talked about to simplify, so I could read automatically, see what's working, what's not working, what's recommended, and so on. And we want to adapt them to the role of the person. I realize that not everybody wants insights at the same level. Some people want very strategic insights, some people want tactical insights, etc., depending on the role, etc. And finally, a shift of the model. So most of the time, the way we've been running it is we go from feedback, we analyze the feedback, we got the insight, we analyze the insight, and we tie it into potential impact. So for example, are you planning to leave in the next 2 years? Yes. The insight from that, there's an attrition risk. The impact of that, you have a churn issue, right? So it just moves a higher level strategically, and the beauty with MLY is going to allow us to shift that. And we're going to start everything now by impact. What are the 5 things that matter to me? If we said, are we going fast enough? Are we adapting to rate of change? Are we getting to destination? Are we taking everybody with us safely? These could be my 4 impact points. I start with that, and if I have an issue I want to dig deep, I can go in from there down the road. Taking us back to the asking to expression point that we brought up during Keynote 1 on Monday. I've been thinking a lot about that since we talked about it. And there's a foundational difference between asking and expression. When I go to someone, I ask them a question, whatever I get is for me. Even if I'm asking them about how they're feeling and I make them feel better in that process. But really, as an organization, most of the time when we do the asking, so we're getting the important insights that we need to improve or address certain problems that we have. Expression is something that a person has as a need to either just say or say to someone, and in hope that whatever I express is going to end up improving my situation. So I got a bad experience with an airline company. I go to a social place and I say something. My hope is that, secret hope is that somehow the VP of something will read that quote and somebody will call me and make it right. That's a very different concept that we have to be very careful when we think of, and always think about. There's always a place for asking. There's always a place for a survey, because the survey is what you need to ensure you're going in the right direction, course correcting. The expression piece is the one we haven't addressed a lot. And MLY comes point blank to help you address that and start to understand and make people truly heard and take advantage of what they're telling you. And the notion of expression is like a river. And we spend a lot of time kind of controlling expression. We come say, let's do a survey. We did the yearly engagement survey. We did the end of term course evaluation survey. We did an end of course learning measurement activity. We've done our job. We gave you a chance to talk. You talked. Now be quiet. Let's enjoy the next year. And we'll ask you again in a year. So we're kind of controlling these rivers. And in reality, what ends up happening is rivers cut through mountains. You can't really block them. That's when we talked about democracy or social justice movements or anything. In general, these things happen because there was no flow that's allowing this river to pass through, so then it will just break through something and big changes happen. So I just want us to keep that image in our head as we move to the next slide. So the main part of Series 4 of MLY is the introduction of a notion that is millisensors, okay? And remember what we said is MTM and blue is for capturing expression. Blue X is for inspiring expression. MLY becomes the platform, already is, but it's going to be at another level, the platform that will help you harness expression. This is the catcher of the important things that are going to come out of your river, because instead of the river breaking through the rock, I can use the river to create electricity. I can use the river to create crops. And the notion of millisensor is as follows. It will help me harness expression that's already made via capture by survey solutions, like Blue, like MTM, like Qualtrics, SurveyMonkey, Question Pro, etc. It will help me capture expression that is stated somewhere, Glassdoor, Indeed, ratemyprofessor.com, etc., and so on. But it will also have an engine in it that will help you capture insights that are already flowing somewhere, those rivers across the landscape of internal and external areas within the organization. For example, listening across a channel. And I'm not saying here, let's listen to everything everybody's saying on Slack, because nobody will use it. But if you come and claim a Slack channel, say, this is a safe channel here. Anything you want to say, have conversation about HR, have conversation about teaching and learning, or whatever you want. And MLY is there sensing. The minute it detects anything that pertains to an insight that matters to the organization or an impact that matters to the organization, it will automatically pick up that comment and add it to the MLY store. So MLY is already listening to Glassdoor, to Indeed, to Rate My Professor. Now you're saying, hey, there's my Slack channel, my team channel. I'm going to create an HR mailbox that anybody that emails something there, we're going to be able to listen to that. And if something's coming in, we're going to automatically detect it and enrich it. Because what matters to us is the impact right now, then the insight. The comment becomes just a filler. Are we missing insights in the organization? Let's not over-survey our people. Let's not just go and ask them for everything that we need, because chances are it's said somewhere, it's available somewhere. If that is not enough, I can actually capture insights in the moment. That's mobile, that's QR. For example, this whole conference, we could literally have a QR code on everybody's name tag. We could have a QR code on the rooms. We can have QR codes on the products, on everywhere. So you can literally come in and just scan it and then write a comment and just boom, it adds to the database of insights within MLY, for example. I said QR code, it could be mobile links, it could be geolocation, that the minute you get out of a store or a place, it allows you to do that. And then, and only then, if via all these abilities we're not able to get it, we can actually have MLY use its own AI ability, because we already taught it to understand the question, to be able to ask the question for you. So now you're in MLY. Somebody comes and says, hey, how are we doing with inclusion in our organization? I look, I don't have enough data. I say, MLY, I need more inclusion data. MLY will go do its job. Either it has a question, MLY could look into what's available. It will update your data. Now I know that, okay, great, this is not working well. I have to know what I need to do about it. MLY, I don't have enough recommendations. Then it could go look into the previous thing we talked, or it could follow up to get more qualification. So the premise really is to shift the mindset that we're always trying to look for the insights that we need, rather than figure out what questions we need to ask. And then the questions we need to ask, the software we actually use to ask these questions will define what kind of analysis we are able to do. So feedback becomes flow. I heard a lot about, I want to introduce feedback in the flow of working, in the flow of learning, in the flow of living. This is exactly what that does. And with this because I love Montreal and I love Leonard Cohen, I'm going to leave you with one last song about speaking and expression. And it's one of those saying, at the end is saying, if you don't want me to speak, I won't speak, but I will sing to you. And the premise behind it, again, is that river that you can never stop of expression. Even if you try to, an expression is going to express itself somehow. And my hope is that MLY will be the tool that will help capture that expression. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful last day, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.